All right, so Game 7 of the NBA Finals just happened, and I want to say, before I start talking about it, I really want to talk about the Halliburton injury because that was the most devastating thing to see during this time in the NBA Finals. It was such a roller coaster of emotion to go from one thing to the other. The excitement of the Game 7, the magic that he was putting on within the first quarter. I mean, everything happened in the first quarter alone. And then shout out to Indiana. They still had a 1-point lead at halftime without Halliburton, but eventually the wheels came off. And I'm going to say the same thing that people have been saying about this. This was and is going to be one of those what ifs that we think about in the NBA. What would have happened if Halliburton played? And some people are guaranteeing a Pacer win. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do know that they would absolutely be more competitive. And they only won by 12, they being OKC. So if Halliburton was in there, there's no doubt in my mind that 12-point difference gets made up. TJ McConnell tried his best to will his team to victory, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. I would have loved to see an overtime, down to the wire, last second, last shot, the way these finals have been, but unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. I think only 2 games out of the series really weren't that competitive, but for the most part, everything was within 1 or 2 possessions. One of the most fun finals to watch in a long time. And like I said, because of the injury, that Game 7 really has a stain on it. That mark that just can't be erased. Now looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, that team that finally got over the hump, winning their first championship in Oklahoma City. They do have one as the Seattle Supersonics, but depending on who you ask, you may not count that for this specific franchise. I think it's a little bit interesting when we talk about whose championship is worth what, because some teams keep championships because they keep the name, but they relocate cities. In the Thunder's case, they had a whole rebrand, so it's a different team name and city entirely. So it's like, I don't know. I'm glad that they do keep it, because I hope at some point we have a Charlotte Hornets scenario where the Charlotte Hornets come back as an expansion team, but then they reclaim all the history that was theirs. I did like that happening for Charlotte. Unfortunately, they haven't been good since that happened, so hopefully there'll be some success in their future. And same thing happens. I hope that the Seattle Supersonics come back into the league and then they reclaim their own history. But for the time being, we're looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Shea put on a performance for the ages. I don't know where it switched. Maybe it was just because it's the underdog story, but somewhere along the line, people just wanted the Pacers to win, and OKC just became evil, and they were the giant that needed to be slayed, when people forget that both of these small market teams were just trying to get back to the top. And yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder almost had 70 wins in the regular season, but I don't think that takes away from where they had to come from to get to where they are now. Not too long ago, they were just like a 20-win team and didn't even sniff the playoffs. So for both of these teams to be this far is a huge accomplishment. And then Sam Presti set them up for years and years to come down the line. We've been talking about parity in this league and the lack of dynasties. I see this at the end of a lot of finals, is can they do it again? But honestly, looking at OKC, and not just with what they have now, but what they're set up with in the future, it's hard for me not to think that they would be the next dynasty if it does happen. I'd rather the parity for the time being. It's just been fun seeing different teams win it all the time. But if I had to pick, they're probably the ones that set up best. But once the next season starts, crazy things happen. It's so unpredictable with the way these injuries are coming out. And unfortunately, players are missing significant amounts of time. You never know what can happen in the future. And knock on wood, because I don't want anyone to be hurt. But unfortunately, injuries are a part of sports, and you never know when you could be bitten by the injury bug. Unfortunately for the Pacers, they got bit at the wrong time. I still think it was a great finals. I always loved the game sevens. Wish it came down to the wire a little bit more, but can't control that. At the end of the day, OKC pulled it out. I still think they deserve to win, no matter what some of the naysayers say. They played incredible defense, and they fought their tail off until the end, so shout out to them.